Welcome, everyone, to our Bhagavad Gita session this evening. Thank you all for taking the time to be with me. We are continuing our study on the Bhagavad Gita, and we're currently on chapter 6, which is Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana meaning meditation, and yoga is the process of the system by which we can connect to the supreme absolute truth. So Dhyana Yoga is important to every yoga, no matter what their process is or what the goal or their destination. Dhyana or meditation is important. So Krishna recognized this importance. He devotes a whole chapter to Dhyana Yoga so that we can understand. And if you have studied yoga before and came in contact with the teachings of Patanjali, you'll see some similarities. Krishna is much more focused on the theological understanding of yoga, whereas Patanjali is focused more on the psychological aspect of yoga, the mind and controlling the mind, etc. So let us begin with where we left off so we can review what our last class was, and then we'll continue on. So we're starting with 12, text 12 in chapter 6, and then we'll move on to 13 through 20. So Krishna in text 12, it's actually in my Gita here, it's 11 and 12 together. So to practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deerskin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. So I normally start out with the Sanskrit, so I'll continue that tradition to give us the mood of the actual conversation between Krishna and Arjuna over 5,000 years ago. Shruchau deshe pratishtapya stiram asanam atmanaha nat yuchritam nati nicham chailagjina kushutaram tatraikagram manakritva yatta chitendriya kriyaha upavishyasane yunjyad yogam atma vishuddhaye. So there's a couple of Sanskrit words in there that you're familiar with. The first one would be asana. And asana means seat, according to Krishna and the definition here and the usage here. And that's another thing you should understand. Sanskrit is a very contextual language. The same word may have a variety of meanings depending on how it's being used. So Krishna, in his discussions in the Bhagavad Gita, particularly, what yoga system is he presenting? Is it Sankhya Yoga he's presenting? Is it Bhakti Yoga he's presenting? A particular word may have a particular connotation according to its usage and the context of its use. So, asanam, you're all familiar with, if you attended a yoga class or continue to attend a yoga class, you may learn different postures or asanas. It's defined here. Asana means seat. And in other places, asana means to sit comfortably. So basically, asana is meant to sit comfortably so that you'll be able to enter into meditation, to sit comfortably. So you'll be able to enter into meditation. That's what asana means. It's not just that you assume various postures. Certainly, it's purifying of the body, but in relationship to the conclusion of yoga, asana means to sit the seat or to sit comfortably. I just want to, someone is, all right, so another word that you'll be familiar with, of course, is yoga. And yoga, the yoga practice, here in the practice of yoga, and the ultimate goal is to link with the Supreme. And Atma may be another word that you're familiar with that's used here. Now, Atma is another one of these words that has several meanings depending on its context. It could mean body, it could mean mind, it can mean heart, it can mean soul. The individual soul, the living entity, could also mean super soul. So Krishna says here to practice yoga. So what he's giving us in these particular verses, these two verses, is more the mechanics of yoga. Go to a secluded place, lay kusha grass. The use of kusha grass and deerskin, by the way, normally because of the principle of ahimsa in yoga, and ahimsa means nonviolence, particularly towards other living entities. So to get a naturally acquired deerskin, kusha grass, these are meant to make the seat sit comfortably, but also in relationship to kusha grass, to keep snakes away, so that when the yogi is performing yoga, they'll be able to be free from the worry of snakes. Somehow or another, kusha has a potency, a certain potency that achieves those goals. So Krishna is saying here, cover it with deerskin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low. Too high, you could fall off of it. Too low, it actually is a little comfortable, more comfortable when you sit a little bit elevated. And so if we go by the definition of asana, means to sit comfortably. So Krishna is careful to give us guidelines as to how to sit comfortably. We need to sit comfortably because when one practices meditation, minimize the discomfort as much as possible. Certainly, if you have bad knees or bad hips, or there's going to be certain things that are going to be very difficult for you to assume a comfortable posture. But at least for the healthy well-being of a yogi, there is the principle of sitting comfortably. And that way, in us sitting comfortably, we're able to try to enter into a meditative state as free of disturbances as possible. So, and should be situated in a sacred place. Now, what does sacred place mean? Sacred place means, like in India, there are many sacred places. Vrindavan, the land of Krishna, is considered a sacred place. Mayapur, the land of Lord Chaitanya, is considered a sacred place. Ayodhya, the land of Ramchandra, is considered a sacred place. The Ganges River, the Jamuna River, the Godavari River. There's different rivers that are also considered sacred places, and there are also villages or towns located along these sacred rivers, which are also considered sacred places. So these sacred places have been made sacred by either the presence of an avatar, the Supreme, who is descended to these places and performed pastimes, or the presence in the past or in the present of a holy person. The energy which comes from an avatar, and the energy that area is infused with, and also a holy person. These all create a certain energy that's there that is very inspirational. Sri Hari and I went to Vrindavan this past fall. We spent some time, September, October, in Krishna's birthplace and the place of Krishna's Leela. And, one of the things is you feel Krishna's and Radharani's presence everywhere because that was the place where Krishna performed his play, his Leela. So it's still infused. And because so many saints over the course of the 5,000 years or more where Krishna appeared, many different holy saints resided in that place and spoke the pastimes of Krishna and chanted the meditation called japa meditation, the chanting of Krishna's names, and kirtan.
Krishna.
All of these different names of Krishna vibrated over the course of time by very pure souls, makes this a very special place. And I really advise anyone who is serious in the practice of bhakti yoga to try to make an effort to get there. In the association of someone who has been there and can guide you in terms of your journey there, because India is a very India has the best of the best and the worst of the worst. So you really have to be careful, where you go and who you go with, so that just the places to be and to be protected in that regard. So sacred place can also be a place that you sanctify by either having deities of Krishna or Ramchandra or Vishnu or any one of the various incarnations of Krishna, like Lord Narasimhadev, Lord Parashuram, Ramchandra, etc. You can make your altar either with a picture or a deity form, and you can turn your home into a sacred place. Ultimately, the goal of a sacred place is to transform your heart into a sacred place. This way, wherever you go, you are carrying your sacred place with you within the very core of your heart. And, by doing the 5 powerful limbs of bhakti yoga, it helps us to develop that very pure and very sacred place of the heart into a sacred place. So Krishna says, and should be situated in a sacred place. So your place of meditation, you should try your best to sanctify that particular place. And it's really good if you can keep it consistent, in a room, dedicate a room to creating that sacred place with an altar or murtis or a picture. And you create that environment so that when you get into that environment, you feel the potency of that environment. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly, the seat, very firmly, and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities, and fixing the mind on one point. So in terms of dhyana or yoga or meditation, Patanjali says yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So that means that yoga means the stilling of the mind, the calming of the mind. And by doing that, by calming the mind, we can actually bring consciousness to within instead of it just being generated externally. We can bring it in. The mind becomes peaceful, just like the analogy that's used or the metaphor that's used is a lake. When a lake is calm, placid, there are no waves, then it's easy to see your reflection. So the mind is the same. The mind can be churning. It could be full of waves and full of what Patanjali calls vrittis or thoughts, and thus it's very difficult in that environment, that mental environment, to begin to experience the nature of the soul, the jiva, the atma, the self. So that's why yoga, one of the primary purposes of yoga is to calm the mind. It's not, yoga does not mean a party. Yoga does not mean, entertainment. Yoga means to practice so that becomes nirodha, so it becomes calm and peaceful, and it becomes an environment, an internal environment by which we can begin to experience who we really are, which is pure consciousness. So there's a difference between pure consciousness and thought. And so in order to realize the difference and situate yourself in pure consciousness or awareness, then one needs to have a peaceful environment. So that's why Krishna is saying here, he's giving us like the parameters, a comfortable seat structured in this way, in a sacred place, and all of these the mechanical aspects of prior to performing yoga. And then Krishna says, controlling the mind, controlling the senses, controlling one's activities doesn't mean that, controlling one's activities means that you reduce the active nature, walking and talking and looking at your cell phone and all of these. The mind has a tendency for busyness. So to try to relieve the mind of that busyness and create that environment externally so that we can go internal to the self. And then the mind has to be fixed on one point. So different yoga systems and different masters, for instance, Krishna, who spoke the Bhagavad Gita, Patanjali, who spoke the Yoga Sutras, Shankaracharya, who's given many different commentaries on Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, and Buddha, who has spoken about nirvana. All of these different personalities over the course of time have utilized yoga as a process of controlling the senses and the mind so that they could get in deep and teach their students how to go deep inside so that they can understand the true nature of the self. So let us continue with our study. Let's go to texts 13 and 14. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharanan achalam stiraha sampreksha nashikagram swam dishas chana balokayan prashant atma vigata bir brahmacari brate stitaha manak samyamya machchito yukta asita mat paraha. So, what does this mean? Again, we're getting to the mechanics of Dhyana Yoga or meditation. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. So the mechanics, best to sit in an erect posture, right? As erect as you possibly can get. And that's the head, the neck, and the lower back in a straight line. This helps the energy, the prana. Some will call it the kundalini, or some will call it chi, but it will help that flow. So that different the straightness that's there, that connective line that's there. Krishna is recommending in order to perform meditation. And he says, stare at the tip of the nose. Now, the Sanskrit to this is, sometimes you'll see people looking at the tip of their nose kind of cross-eyed. The multifaceted meaning is that you should be looking straight ahead. Whether you stare at the tip of your nose or not, or look straight ahead, the idea is not to be distracted by looking to your left, looking to your right, looking up, looking down, etc., looking all over. But the idea is to try to fix the gaze to the front. So that's why Krishna uses that point of reference, the tip of the nose, because that's about as front as you can possibly get, in terms of the gaze of your eye. So the key words here is the spine, the neck, the head that Krishna says here, and gaze towards the front or the tip of the nose. And prasad means kind of means a peaceful heart. So one should try to be very peaceful in the heart. I don't know how many of you have tried meditation. If you've tried meditation, I don't know if you've studied a particular form of meditation, but whatever form of meditation that you've performed or you have performed or are performing now, the goal is to try to control. There has to be control of the body, the mind, the internal workings, the energy that is flowing. So Krishna is telling us this way, keep straight, keep looking forward. Don't look side to side, up and down. Don't look at your cell phone. Don't look at your computer. Don't look, hither and thither, but try to be fixed. Vya visat yatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. It's like this one-pointed intelligence. Patanjali talks about that in the Yoga Sutra. There's this one-pointed focus, how important it actually is. So this is important. Create the environment with the mechanics of controlling your body in a particular way. Pranayama, the process of proper breathing. There's different methods of pranayama, but the most common method is, breathing in through one nostril, closing the other nostril, breathing in for approximately 4 seconds, holding it for 8 seconds, and then releasing with the other nostril for 4 seconds, and then breathing in again and repeating and going back and forth. Doing this slowly and carefully helps to calm the mind. The breathing controls the mind. And we see when we get into anxiety, or we get into anger, or we get into the competitive spirit, we see our breathing is affected, is it not? When you get angry, oh yeah, you start breathing, really heavy or anxious. You see the breath pattern changes. So breathing is a very important connective tool to the state of mind. So in yoga, the principle of controlling the breathing, doing these various breath exercises, for me, I try to do as frequently as possible some kind of breath control, even if it's just very much engaging my diaphragm. It's called diaphragmatic breathing. I very much engage my diaphragm for 2 reasons. Number one, to control the mind, to help to make the mind peaceful. But number 2, it's considered one of the most effective ways of building core strength. And it's not just a yogic principle. It's not just in yoga is that understood. But even when I had my leg, I had a knee operation where I had partial knee replacement. And the physical therapist there, what she said, learn to breathe in, hold it, then out. She said, and do that with the consciousness of the diaphragm participating. When you're breathing in, it's letting your diaphragm expand. So actually the stomach comes out. And then when you let it go, you breathe, pull tight on the diaphragm. And I do that as much as I possibly can during the course of the day, yeah, so that I can twofold control the mind, try to have the mind in a peaceful state, and also the development of my core strength. So it's all an amazing yoga is an amazing science. And then one thing that Krishna says here in this particular verse, he says, Vigata, be free from fear. What are fears that we have when it comes in relationship to yoga? We're not just talking about, fear of death and fear of loneliness, etc. We're also talking about, in yoga, we're talking about fear of commitment. Because in order to experience the practical effects of yoga, there has to be an element of commitment. And I've seen, in my wanderings in the yoga world, I've seen there is a fear of commitment. A lot of people have this fear of commitment. And thus, because of that fear of commitment, they're unwilling to commit to a practice, a singular practice, rather more of the smorgasbord effect. I'll take a little bit of this, I'll take a little bit of that, etc. I'll borrow from here, borrow from there. But the commitment to a practice, a sadhana, is a very important aspect in terms of developing one's peaceful state of mind, number one, and also to enter into something deeply and not just superficially. So commitment, this fear of commitment. Another thing I've seen in my travels through the yoga world is fear of loss of freedom. In other words, oftentimes, depending on the yoga system that you follow, in bhakti yoga, for instance, which is the yoga system I follow and many of us actually here follow, in the bhakti yoga system, the deeper you get into it, there are regulative principles that you are required to follow, especially if you want to learn from a teacher, from a spiritual master or guru. Then in the bhakti yoga lineages, there are four basic bhakti yoga lineages. The one lineage that we're following is the Krishna lineage. The main preceptor was Brahma, and then from Brahma, it goes down all the way to present day, which is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And then after Prabhupada left the planet, then there were certain individuals of sufficient advancement, elevation to continue this lineage, so to speak. And so in our particular lineage of Bhakti Yoga, we learn the process of bhakti in relationship to Krishna, because bhakti literally means service to Krishna. And that's why we study Bhagavad Gita, to help us understand the knowledge and the principle and the goal behind our yoga system. So fear of loss of freedom means, I have to follow these principles. But also, if you look at any serious yoga system, the classic yoga system of Patanjali, he says you have to follow the Ashtanga system, 8 principles that are there, right? Yamas, niyama, asana, pranayam, then pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. You follow these 8 principles. So yamas and niyamas means certain regulations that you follow so that you can create a sattvic mind. These principles that the various yoga systems ask you to follow, like in our bhakti yoga system, that we follow basically 5 regulative principles. One is, no eating meat, fish, or eggs. The second principle is no gambling. Third principle is no intoxication. And the fourth principle is no illicit sex, or no sex outside of marriage. You stay true to your partner. And so those are the principles. The 4, when I say 5, the 5th one is to chant regularly the mantra that your teacher gives you. And in our case, in our Bhakti Yoga lineage, the primary mantra that we chant in our meditation is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So fear of loss of freedom means, oh, I have to do this every day. I can't eat what I want to eat. I can't, if I want to go to Atlantic City or some gambling casino, I can't do that. But gambling also requires, it's not only just, rolling dice and things like that. It's speculative activity. So these regulative principles help to create the sattvic mind. Sattvic, or the sattva gun, means the mode of goodness. Mode of goodness is a fertile environment for peace, for happiness, for philosophical pursuits. So we follow those regulative principles, and it creates an internal environment that makes it easy for us to follow principles that will help us to control the mind and the senses and help us to advance along our path of yoga. So there's fear of loss of freedom. There's fear of narrow-mindedness. What does that mean? Narrow-mindedness means that, if I follow what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, or what a guru tells me to do, that's very narrow-minded. But actually, Krishna uses the phrase, the regulative principles of freedom, in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So rather than you becoming narrow-minded, it's helping you to become focused so that you can open up to the expansive world of spirituality. What does Brahman mean? Brahman means vastness. So we cannot have a glimpse into the vastness of the spiritual world if we are just, all over the place in this little tiny portion of the vastness of existence, this material realm. It's considered very, very small in relationship to the totality of existence, the material elements, the material world, which is the separated energy of the Supreme. It's considered a very, very tiny portion of the vastness of the entirety of the spiritual realm. Brahman literally means vastness. So we're actually, by confining ourselves to the material world and materialistic activities, and the illusion that, the more options I have on my table, the happier I'm going to be. And they've even disproved that in various psychological research. They've proved, there's been studies at Harvard and Yale, that the more options a person has, the unhappier that person becomes. I don't have the details of those researchers, but I have it somewhere in my notes. But Yeah, it's interesting to note that when they did this research and they had these two different test groups, the test group that had more options than the other test group were less happy because they were always second guessing themselves. Oh, I chose this, but I could have chosen that. And they're always second guessing themselves and not feeling peaceful and satisfied and happy. So all of these different fears, the process of yoga helps us to become vigata bhi or abhay, fearless, freedom from fear. And then brahmacari. Brahmacari means controlling the sexual energy, not expending it at whenever time that you want. There is a thing called ojas, and Ayurveda ojas is this very, very concentrated ball of energy that is below the navel. And there are different foods and different lifestyle techniques to make the ojas strong. The dissemination, discharging of semen and other juices that are there weakens it. So that's why it's recommended. Patanjali in his yamas and niyamas, also in our bhakti yoga system, it's recommended that you um, contain that. And what happens, that energy, when it's not expelled, it actually rises up the straight uh, meridian that you've created, and it goes to the brain and it nourishes the brain. So therefore, memory becomes strong, and insight becomes keen. So that's why here in Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras and many other yogic texts, this is a point. In fact, if you have read anything about Olympic stars, or warriors, that prior to a big event, that they're participating in, they usually stay celibate for some time prior to that because of this ability to focus and because of this energy, this kind of internal energy, which nourishes the mental energy and the ability to focus, to concentrate. So that's another one. Vrati stita, and then mat chitta mat para, mind fixed on me, Krishna says. So from the bhakti yoga perspective, this mat chitta mat para means mind fixed on Krishna, on the Supreme. Now, there's different ways that Krishna manifests in different forms. And the two primary forms in terms of yoga and meditation is the Paramatma, or the super soul within the heart, the manifestation of the Supreme that enters into the heart, into the essence of each being, and helps that. Sarvasya chaham rini sanivishto matak smriti jnanam aponam cha. And from the presence of the super soul come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So even our ability to forget purpose of life, the purpose of human life, that is also given to us by super soul, because we are fully conscious entities in our natural pure state, which never is contaminated or corrupted. In that state, we are fully cognizant beings. So when we come in contact with the super soul, then we're getting this internal guidance which keeps us on the straight and narrow path and keeps us inspired. Because another complaint would be, this fear of commitment or fear of loss or fear of freedom. One of the complaints is, how am I going to experience any joy, if I can't just go to a restaurant and order whatever I want to order, etc. And this focus on how you are going to use your life, that's really what it boils down to. When you are faced with um, the quandary of who am I and what is the purpose of my life? If you're not there, then what I'm saying is very difficult to understand. But if you're coming to that point of who am I and what is my purpose in life, if you're coming to that point, then there has to be this degree of commitment to that journey. And that journey is the yoga path. And that yoga path involves all of these things, both physically, sensory, mentally, intellectually, egoistically, as well as spiritually. All of these have to align. So we are single pointed in our focus. Vyavisatyatmika buddhir. And we have this one pointed intelligence that is helping to guide us along our journey. If we're on a journey, and like when I drive, I try to pay very careful attention to the road. And I think my wife considers me a good driver. She's been with me, many times on many different journeys because I try to keep focused on the road. And that will give me an awareness of what's going on the road, what's going on in the road beyond my responsibility. In other words, I can't control what that car next to me is going to do. If that guy is on his cell phone and he's kind of swerving, I can't control that. But what I can control is my awareness level to pick that up, that person is not paying attention and I'm in jeopardy right now and my family. So this kind of focus helps me to be as safe a driver as I possibly can. So in our journey of life, if we've had the realization that my life has purpose, and that purpose is to understand why I am endowed with all these wonderful things like intelligence and the ability to question and to look at the world around me in wonder and awe. Just like we look at a painting, if we view a painting of a master, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Yes, the beauty of the painting, but also the genius of that artist. We say to ourselves, wow, Van Gogh was amazing. Rembrandt was amazing. Kandinsky was amazing. And their perception of their things and the ability to express that perception on canvas, or their photographers through the camera lens. We appreciate that. So this kind of awareness in life, when we go through life, I think one of the first epiphanies that I had, and I don't know why I had it, it was just samskara, some kind of mental impression that rose at that particular point in time. I was hitchhiking. You remember the days when you could hitchhike? So I was hitchhiking, and it was a beautiful day. The sun was out. It was like the perfect temperature. I was in New Jersey. I remember this, and I just entered into the moment and of the beautiful day, the beautiful weather, the breeze, entered into the epiphany of that moment and realized that my life could be filled with such moments if I was able to cultivate a level of awareness, a cognition, a moment-to-moment cognition of what's going on around me, an appreciation of what the person is saying and who that person is and why that person is so wonderful. This beingness, being in a conversation, being with a person and experiencing their wonderful qualities, being in outside and experiencing their wonderful quality, the wonderful qualities of the creation that's there. All of these things, this comes. And then when we have the kinds of little intermittent epiphanies, perceptions, then it leads us down our path to experience that again and again and again. Why in the 60s did the consciousness expanding movement there, movement of the hippies, why did that become so important, so significant for people? Because people were getting some little glimmer of being in the moment, just like fully absorbed in the moment. And then when they realized drug-induced states like that are so fleeting and so temporary and so unhealthy ultimately for the mind and for the body, then we just pursued, according to who you are and where you were, we just pursued a path that could give us that level of realization, those moment-to-moment epiphanies, and the joy of that. So Krishna is giving us yoga, the yoga system, so that we can cultivate that within us and within our hearts. Okay, let's move on. Said enough about this verse. We're on, we're on 15 now, text 15 of Dhyana Yoga, chapter 6. Thus, practicing, let me get to my, okay. Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities. And notice what Krishna says here, constant control. So that requires commitment. To do something consistently, constantly, requires commitment. Control of the body, mind, and activities. The mystic, transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. So this is very important. Peace through yoga. And what does that peace look like? Krishna's not only saying peace through yoga, he uses the word nirvana. Interesting, right? Because so does Buddha use the word nirvana. So does Shankaracharya use the word nirvana. But nirvana, according to Krishna, does not mean nothingness. We enter a state of nothingness, or we enter the state of spirit, merging with the spiritual energy. Here, Krishna, when he says that, is mat samstam, situated in me. Nirvana here does not mean voidness, nothingness, or impersonalism, but establishment in the Lord's personal existence. It means interaction. It means relational. This verse means that we experience that joy, that happiness, that peace through relationship with the divine. So entrance into what's called Bhagavat Swarup Sambandha, a relationship with the Supreme. This is very important. So peace is a loving absorption, according to Krishna, in this verse, is a loving absorption in the object of our meditation, the focal point of our service, and that is the Supreme, herein described as Krishna. Not cessation of our individuality, but the exercise of our individuality in relationship. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetanam. That the life force, there's a nityo, a supreme individual, infinite in proportion. And there's nityanam, the finite Sat Chit Ananda, the finite eternity, knowledge, and bliss, which is embodied in the individual Atma, the soul, Jiva. That's what this is meaning. So, Nirvana does not mean void, but it means entering or absorbing ourselves in relationship. Text 16. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. What is Krishna talking about here? Moderation, balance, alignment. When you study Ayurveda, what is the point of Ayurveda? Ayurveda is to bring the body, the mind, the intellect into balance. Disease comes from being imbalanced by, lifestyle habits, by dietary habits. It causes, if we're eating wrong, according to our constitutional nature, then, for instance, we see that there's trends, right? Oh, if you eat like this, if you eat like a vegan, if you eat like a raw foodist, if you eat like that, etc., then you'll become supremely healthy. But not according to Ayurveda. Ayurveda means balance is individual. And one man's balance may be another man's disaster. Like, for instance, I've gone to two very, very well-known and significant personalities in their individual fields. One was in Ayurveda, his name was Dr. Triguna, who was well known over the course of time as a very powerful Ayurvedic practitioner who can, through your pulse and pulse diagnosis, he can pinpoint, the various diseases. And both him and another very well-known homeopathic doctor in Mayapur named Gaurapada both told me that if I ate raw, it would be disastrous for my health. So it's not a matter of jumping on a bandwagon. And Krishna is saying here, don't give up things, like don't eat too little, because then your body can become weak and you lose the strength. And when you lose strength, you lose intelligence, basically. Don't do that, but find the balance. And this is what's really helpful. In particular, of course, as you know, my wife's an Ayurvedic doctor, and our household follows Ayurvedic regimens. But I'm very, very much appreciative of the Ayurvedic way because of the balance it brings into life. I see when I eat things that are not best for me, I feel, you become sensitive enough to feel how your body is going out of balance. But you can also be intelligent enough to bring it back into balance. You may have your certain dietary regimen, but if it's bothering you a little bit, then you can also have your cheat day, where during the course of a month, 1 or 2 days where you can go off your diet a little bit, not to the point of becoming himsa, violent, and eating things that are caused by violence, but to the point of, treating yourself, whatever little things that you like to comfort yourself, some comfort food, that's okay. So this is Krishna talking about moderation. What does he say? No possibility of becoming a yogi, Arjuna, if you eat too much or you eat too little. Sleep too much, sleep too little. All of these basic necessities of our existence, and while we're embodied, has to be brought to balance, and you have to find your balance. Excess or deprivation both agitate the mind and obstruct your meditation. So excess or deprivation. Therefore, what does sleep mean? It means you may need less sleep, and you function very well on less sleep. As I get older, I find my body doesn't require as much sleep as it used to when I was a teenager. So it means to be sensitive to what is your balance and to put that into effect. Eating, same thing. In some cases, you can eat once a day, full meal, and feel fully surcharged. In other instances, if you maybe have weaker digestion, it may be better for you to eat more frequently, smaller quantities of food. But it all requires making the necessary adjustment to bring yourself into balance. Regulated diet, regulated sleep, regulated work, all of these things are of the utmost importance. Okay, so let's move on to text 17. I think text 17 is a continuation of, yes, it is. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So those two verses are very tied into each other. Be balanced, be and find your balance. Make an effort to find your balance. 18. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. 19, and this is a very often quoted. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist, whose mind is controlled, remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. So, as a lamp, here's the metaphor, a lamp in a windless place. So you see, you have a candle lit, and if you're outside or if you're inside, and there is no breeze coming, like we had kirtan at my house 2 Thursdays ago, I think it was. And I had, I like it really warm. And then some of the people that came, they said, can you please turn on the air conditioning? I thought, okay. So I had this nice table set up with candles and, burning and everything. And then as soon as I turned the air conditioner on, the vent happened to be right over the table. So while the air conditioning was not on, the candle was very stable. The flame did not waver. As soon as I turned the air conditioner on, some of them blew out, some of them were, fighting for their life, etc. So that is the way we want to bring the mind. The mind replicates the flame in a windless place. So we take the wind out of it by removing being able to control our desires, or take those desires and dovetail it in our service to the Supreme, to the Divine, to Krishna. And then the last is 20, in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. So samadhi in Patanjali's classic yoga system, he says, Krishna says in Gita, uh, samadhi is not blankness, but unbroken meditation on Krishna, Krishna's nama, rupa, guna, lila. Nama means name, guna means qualities, rupa means form, and lila means pastime. So that kind of constant meditation, when one is able to absorb the mind, and I think even I've read in various descriptions of lila smarna, I think if you can do that for like an hour and 12 minutes, it's considered one of the preliminary forms of samadhi. So Patanjali, however, samadhi does not depend on the object's theology. It depends on steadiness of attention. So Patanjali whittles it just to how much you're able to be attentive, single-pointed attentive. Whereas in Gita and in Bhakti Yoga, it's meditation attentive to the Supreme and your relationship. So it's different. Okay, I'll stop here. It's 8:01. I don't want to. We covered a lot of ground. Thank you very much for your attentiveness. And I open the floor up for anyone who would like to ask any kind of question or make any kind of comment or observation, or if you would like, and I would like, if you can give me a takeaway, something that you can share with the rest of the group in terms of what you got out of what was discussed in the various verses here in the 6th chapter. Anyone would like to share with the group a takeaway, an observation, a realization, a point, or you may have a question. Questions are also welcome. So
I have a question.
please. Who is that?
This is Sri Hari.
Okay, Shriha, you disappeared from my screen, so that's why I didn't know.
Right here.
Yes, please
So
share with us.
You mentioned the word oja. Is that the same as kundalini?
I'm not 100% clear on what Kundalini means, but probably yes, because I know Kundalini, sorry, Kundalini is very, energy conscious.
Yeah, so
So
is that this? I mean, when you were describing it, kundalini came into my mind, but
yeah.
is oja the same or different somehow?
No, I think there's similarities that it's an energy point. It's a powerful energy point, and I think in that way it's probably very similar. We have to check with Ayurveda, then we see how the Kundalinis translate that, and then we have to see how the other yoga systems also look at. See, the one thing, if you don't come away with anything other than this particular point, yoga can mean a world of different things. It can mean a world of different goals. Bhakti Yoga, the goal of Bhakti Yoga is specific to establishing your loving relationship with the personality of God. Whereas Advaitin philosophy, as given to us by Shankaracharya, talks about establishing your freedom from illusion and the recognition that you are pure spirit, and then enter into that oneness of spirit. Patanjali, his goal in his meditation is to recognize the true nature of the self and enter into that nature of the self. That's spiritual, pure awareness. So I'm not diverting from your question. I'm really trying to make the point that there may be slight differences of what ojas means, but I think in general we can safely say that everyone will agree that it
Just gotta
is.
pick a different one.
Say it again. Someone said something? I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay,
Okay, this is Hita Sharma. Uh, I mean, I know a little bit in Sanskrit. It means like, vital essence of somebody, like inner strength and radiant vitality. Like when you do Kundalini yoga or other yogas, then your internal stability establishes, and person is more strong, feels peaceful and protected from within. Like it
Yeah.
also means like stored nourishment and stability. Well, Tejas means intelligence and transformation. So when you develop Ojas with Pran Shakti, with life force energy, by training it through the Kundalini, then you develop Tejas, which is visible from outside. Like, it's you emit kind of a very radiant energy.
Yes.
That's what it means, I think.
Thank you, Hita. Thank you. And its application, like according to Ayurveda or Kundalini Yoga, et cetera, would be consistent
Yes,
with
yes, it is
Hita
consistent.
just shared with us. Thank you for that. For that, we appreciate that.
Yeah,
how do
thank you.
you spell Oja?
OJAS.
O-J-A-S.
OJAS. Ojas. And other word is Tejas. Tejas. So first we have to develop Ojas, like strength within ourselves, stamina that will keep us totally calm, quiet, peaceful. And then more practice with Ayurveda, eating and yoga, and raising your Kundalini, or even by chanting, you will develop Tejas. Tejas.
Thank you.
I remember once, well, I was at work
Mm-hmm.
and one of my colleagues said, and he was a vegetarian. He said, "Yeah, I'm a vegetarian. You're a vegetarian, but there's a difference."
Mm-hmm.
He said, you have some kind of glow.
Yeah, yeah.
He says, you have some
Yeah,
kind
you
of
have,
glow.
you have. They say by constant mantra chanting, and you can develop ojas and then tejas. So you must have done so much in life that
Yeah.
you have tejas in your face.
Yes. Thank you.
Uh, yeah.
Does anyone have any other observation or that they or takeaway?
Hare
I'm
Krishna
interested.
Prabhu.
Yes, sir. That's Shakti.
That's Bharat.
Oh, Bharat. I'm sorry, Bharat. Prabhu, go ahead.
Also, like yoga or meditation, does it mean that like whatever you're doing, you completely get absorbed into that and like completely focused?
One of the side effects. That's one of the side effects, or secondary effects of that ability to greater concentration, greater focus. In Bhakti Yoga, it means absorbed, like in Nama, Guna, Rupa, or Lila, or all. It means so, like when we read about Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and the various saintly personalities of the past in the Bhakti Yoga tradition, and how they actually entered into the remembrance of the past time and experiencing their relationship with the Supreme, with Krishna. That's on that level of samadhi. Uh, so what in practice of yoga and meditation, one of the byproducts is a greater ability to focus and to concentrate.
Okay,
So
because I was
that's
thinking about when you talked about diaphragm, like when I meditate or I sing, I try to focus, like, and this is sing from bottom of your heart.
yeah. Yeah, singing in particular. If you take any, I took a singing course with this one devotee, and he emphasized what was his name? Ojasvini, I think. Speaking of Ojas, um, he emphasized the diaphragmatic breathing, that you bring up the air through the working of the diaphragm, the release of the diaphragm, so that the air that comes in has greater space, fills your lung, and then the pressure on the diaphragm as you're exhaling, as you're singing out, gives you greater power, to hold the note, and to go for a longer duration, etc. So yeah, diaphragmatic breathing in singing is very important. Diaphragmatic breathing also in meditation. I was telling my son, diaphragmatic breathing when you run.
Correct.
You see, athletes, they develop an ability, a consistency in their breath. Because what happens when you observe a young boy doing exercise? One of the things you will observe is they hold their breath. In the attempt to do the exercise, they hold their breath. But no, when you become more adept, yoga, yoga is very important. When you learn a certain yoga system, the teacher will tell you, you know, release the air, take in the air. There's a syncing, a synchronization of breathing, inhale and exhale, as you go through the various asanas. So yeah, it's very important, both in kirtan and in actual physical asanas, and also singing, all these different things. The breathing is important. There is a book, I'm trying to remember the name. I think it's called Breath. And this is a man who, I'll check the title, but I'm almost positive it's called Breath. And he did research by personally engaging, by being the person who did it all and observing. And he did research on breathing and actually how important it is. Okay, Ravi's contributing. Newborns have diaphragmatic breathing. We were born with it. Yeah, it's a thing that we can condition ourselves away from, the diaphragmatic breathing. You see people breathing from their mouths. And I believe in this book, Breath, he talks about how breath, Gokula is putting it up, by James Nestor. So anyone wants to read about that, thank you, Gokula. Anyone wants to read about the importance of proper breathing, he's done a lot of research. So it's not just from a yogic perspective, although it does support the yoga perspective and the Ayurvedic perspective of importance of breathing properly, diaphragmatic breathing. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. This is the kind of dialogue, that we should have. Anyone, any other observation?
Hare
Someone?
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah, I was listening to that book a couple weeks ago. The person was James Nestor. He suffered from undeveloped teeth, and he had to breathe to the kind of like that yogi that was sick, and then he became a founder of yoga. I don't remember the name of that. There was there's a famous yogi who was very sick as a child, and then he became a master. So he did this person, James, in the book is called Bread, yeah. And he studied some skulls of people like from like 150 years ago, and the nostrils were bigger and their teeth were stronger, how it affects your whole face. Because and snoring and all that kind of what's that called when you fall asleep? Like um what's that called? I forgot. You're there and then you fall asleep like it
Oh,
affects.
yeah.
And
When you're just sitting there and you kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
doze out. Yeah.
So
I forget what it's called too.
and it has an effect on your teeth, and it changes the structure of the respiratory channels, whatever they're called. And so I was listening a little bit. So it's funny that you mentioned it.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So,
Anyway.
so for everybody, it's James Nestor, and the book's called Breath, if you want to read about the importance of breathing properly. I know he mentions a lot of different examples, cross references, of people who did breathe properly, people who don't breathe properly. But I do know breathing through the mouth. I do remember that. Well, I read in the book is very detrimental to your well-being. Thanks, Premarnava, for that.
Prabhuji, just one thing you raised about the relationship between the mind and the breathing. So if mind is agitated, people have fear and worry and excitement, often results in shallow breathing. And when that subsides, you naturally get into deeper diaphragmatic breathing, and that fearlessness, I presume Krishna was talking about, would contribute to naturally us achieving it through that. Okay, whatever may come, that whatever may come, let it pass. That gives you sense of settling down, and that would should result in a deeper end, and not shallow breathing. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, when the person was talking about, I was just reading something, and the person was making that point about breath being so tied into, your mind. And he was making the point of like when you get angry, people, they really, there's this rapid increase, and it gets breathing almost becomes violent. So that's why the yogis, they have discovered the potency of breathing and the control that it brings to the mind. Thank you, Ravi, for sharing.
Prabhuji, just one more thing. I was thinking about the nature of mind, and you were talking about the paradox of choices, that choices often don't lead to happier. The research you were alluding to, if more choices are present, we are often not happy. We are more happier with smaller set of choices. The other study proved illusion of free will or illusion of freedom essentially comes down to fewer choices.
You just cut somebody off. Ravi, are you there?
I'm still there. I can hear it. Your screen is frozen.
You just cut somebody off.
No, the point I was making earlier on that illusion, the choices, actually more choices don't make us happy, but just limited amount of choice gives us the illusion of freedom. Illusion of free will is the optimum one. Limited choice, not no choice also is not good. Higher choice is also not good. Just limited amount of choice.
Right.
And another thing we learned from other research, very beautiful, came out, like we are mammals and warm-blooded. The example would be a hamster in a wheel. Hamsters always circle in a wheel, and the question was, if we put this wheel outside not in an enclosure, but outside in a open area in a forest or somewhere, do rodents come, and how they would react to it? And they worked exactly. They loved the wheel. They would jump in the forest, and they would circle and going nowhere. That just shows that our mind needs stimulant, and that applies to humans also. We need some kind of stimulant at the various levels or whatever it may be. And that's often is a little bit counter to going deeper into spirituality. Like you want to go to, you should have subside the mind. You should eat food and live a lifestyle where you could easily cross that barrier and meditate. So one of the studies came on that somehow we have to manage the flaw we are born with, to have to exist with least amount of stimulant when needed, and to be able to put it aside and go deeper, so that we could actually taste actual real things. So one study was that I was pointing to. Yeah.
If we study the life of anybody who's achieved greatness, in their It could be an athlete, it could be a scholar, a spiritualist, etc. We see that there's a great deal of focus that they develop, number one, and number two, they become very single-minded, very focused on what they do and what they want to achieve, because actually what you do plays into what you achieve. If you're not focused, then the opposite of what Krishna says, the vyavisatyatmika buhu, the single-pointed intelligence. Then he says, then the mind is not focused, then you don't, the resolve to advance in bhakti yoga does not take place. So that's like in any yoga system, but particularly in bhakti yoga, if we're going to be specific, that the resolve, if you don't have that kind of focus and you don't you reduce your options, and what is having more options? It's the result really of advertisement. When you look at it, you have awareness of all these options, whether it's within your economic domain or not, because nowadays people are being bombarded. So, the better car, the better house, the better this, the better that. There are so many weapons of distraction. And part of the distraction is to place on our lap unlimited amount of options and create desire after desire, because fulfillment of desire does not satisfy. Fulfillment of desire creates more desires. And the actual goal of yoga in bhakti, I'll be bhakti specific because otherwise we can go on for all night. But bhakti specific, bhakti does not advocate being no desires, having no desire. Bhakti is directing your desires towards the Supreme. Like if you have a desire to be successful, for instance, what do? Discourage you from being successful? No, you be like, and my son was telling me, I want to be a professional soccer player. So what do I say? Oh no, that's not a devotee. Why you want? No, I didn't say that. I say, okay, you be the best that you can possibly be, and if you become a success, then you tell people that part of your success, in obtaining, is that you were meditating since you're a young boy, developing that concentrative ability and concentrative skills since you were a young boy. So it's not that we are desireless. That's impossible to be desireless. But what even you desire to be desireless. So even that is a desire. You say, I want to be free from desires. I want to be free from desire. That's a desire. So we have desires. So it's not that we become desireless. It's that we become aware of our desires, edit them to a degree. Certain desires are not conducive, and those desires, like foods that you want to eat, or places that you want to go, you kind of dovetail them or direct them as something which would be beneficial to your devotional service, to your achievement of your goal and your yoga system. So I'll ask for one more statement and then conclude the evening. Does anyone have anything else they would like to share with us? Any takeaway or question, burning question? Be happy to entertain that. If not, I want to thank you all for being with me this evening, giving me your association, and your association is my inspiration to try to understand, what Krishna is giving us, the vast wealth of knowledge that he's giving us in this Bhagavad Gita. to help us through all aspects of our life. I could talk about the 5 levels of understanding within the Bhagavad Gita, but that's a whole class. So, but this Gita is a vast wealth of knowledge that can help us in every dimension of our existence. So, thank you for sharing your time with me and sharing your realizations. That to me, that's very exciting when I hear you all speak, about different things that have struck you in relationship to the Gita. So again, until next week, you have a happy, healthy, and holy week. And I'm excited this week because we have a kirtan every Thursday night, and we've been kind of struggling with finding places to do the kirtan, and now we have a regular place to do a kirtan, and on our Thursday night venture, so it'll make it a lot easier, a lot more comfortable for those of you that participate, those of you that are in the area and would like to participate. So,
Can you share that?
Yeah,
yeah,
what place is
yeah, there's a wonderful lady. Her name is Valentina Nestorov, and she's a good friend of my wife, and she owns a physical rehabilitation center, and she has 2 of them, and one is literally 4 minutes from my house. And we approached her if we could do kirtan there because her work day ends at 5 o'clock. And she agreed. So we're going to be able to, as much as we want, do kirtan there at her place, and once a month we're going to do it at our place. So between the 4 Thursdays in a month, we're going to have a regular place to go to. So it'll be nice and convenient for all of us because where we live, Valentina's place is literally 4 minutes from my place, so it's the same area. It's East Boca, which is right in the middle of where a lot of our uh, friends who participate come from. They either come from West Palm or Boynton or Delray Beach, which is to the north of Boca, or Coral Springs, some from Fort Lauderdale, which is to the south of Boca, and it's a nice kind of convenience and right off, very close to Route 95. So
What time
excited.
starts?
That starts 7 p.m. It'll start 7 p.m. And Bart Trishta, if you're asking, I'll send you the address and the details.
Yeah, can you post it on this site, the same where we have sent us the link?
I certainly can. I can do that.
Thank you. So it
You're
will be
welcome.
7 to 9 p.m. probably, right?
Yes, exactly. 7 to 9 every Thursday.
Yeah, you can send it to me also.
Okay, I will do.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Have a
Thank
happy,
you.
healthy, and holy week.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you for such good session.
Thank you. Thank you, Lakshmi. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Okay, Rose, thank you.
Hare
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 Krishna.
Krishna. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
And
Krishna,
stay
everybody.
stay warm, Premarnava.
Yeah.
Premarnava
Thank you all.
It's
with
finally
us.
starting to melt today. It's melting a little bit finally, but
Yeah.
Oh,
it
wonderful, wonderful.
was bad.
I know my sister's up there near you in New Jersey, and she was saying it
Oh,
was like 11 degrees and
yeah,
snowing and ice, and
yeah,
all I said to her is, "Thank God I'm here. Thank God I'm down in South Florida. I
yeah,
could not handle it.
yeah.
Puerto Rico totally spoiled us." Okay, so have a safe week, everybody. We'll see you.